possessions, ambitions of man. You can exploit resources, you can devastate the land. Most people do that while others waste a day. When I was a young boy, my father, he said to me, boy, you can be anything, anything you wanna be. Just don't let your days pass you by. And he said, do what you wanna do, and say what you wanna say. Change if you want to, and live for another day. It's your world, what you gonna do? Asking for more, but deaf ears have no conscience. There's lovers of life whose ambitions have been smothered. There's people do that while others waste a day. When I was a young boy, my father, he said to me, boy, you can be anything, anything you wanna be. Just don't let your days pass you by. And he said, do what you wanna do, say what you wanna say, change if you want to, and live for another day. It's your world, what you gonna do? Money, pretty possessions, ambitions of man. Life's what you make of it. Don't you understand? 'Cause it's your world. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? When I was a young boy, my father has said to me, boy, you can be anything, anything you wanna be.
Hello, this is Dan Shea with Veterans for Peace Forum, and I want to welcome you all back this weekend. Today is also Earth Day, and that video was produced by one of our veterans, Veterans for Peace, Jim Toller, and he's right now down in LA working on some other videos and is recording his music. So he's moving to Portland, and we're glad to have him aboard. Wanted to put that out there for people. I'm sure there are a number of our members that are right now in some kind of activity in Portland for Earth Day, and this whole weekend people will be demonstrating one way or the other. There's a couple of things that I just wanted to mention for our veterans out there. VFP is going to have its national convention in August 14th, I believe, 15th in Berkeley, California. And you can go to our national website, veteransforpeace.org. It's up there on the screen, and check into the convention, and you can register there. If you're an Iraq veteran or post 9/11 veteran, we are also have funds to try and bring you people there. We would like you to have a chance to tell your stories, meet other veterans, and see if there's any way that you might be interested in participating with us in the future. A couple of other things I just want to let people know. Some people want to know what Veterans for Peace is all about. Well, we have what we call sort of a statement of purpose. We have dutifully served our nation and do hereby affirm our greater responsibilities to serve the cause of world peace. And to this end, we will work with others to increase public awareness of the cost of war, to restrain our government from intervening overtly and covertly in the internal affairs of other nations, to end the arms race and to eliminate nuclear weapons, to seek justice for veterans and for victims of war, to abolish war as an instrument of our national policy. To achieve these goals, members of Veterans for Peace pledge to use nonviolent means and to maintain an organization that is both democratic and open, with an understanding that all members are trusted to act in the best interests of the group for the larger purpose of world peace. So that is our mission, and if that's a mission you can adhere to, then you should join us. I just want to tell you a few other things that we're doing, and one of those, we have a number of projects and national projects. There is the full disclosure, which is towards an honest commemoration of the American War in Vietnam during its 50th anniversary. We're moving resources from war to human needs, opposing militarization of the police, educating on drone warfare, and working to close Guantanamo prison. Those are many of the projects. I'm also involved with a delegation that I just went to in December to Okinawa and Jeju Island, where a naval base was being built in Jeju Island. I just gave a presentation on March 15th as a report back. And one of the things that was happening there in the naval base, we had people that were demonstrating from Jeju Island in this little village called Gangjeon Village. This Korean naval base that is being built there is pretty much at the bequest of the U.S. because the U.S. is building this sort of Asian pivot, and the Asian pivot is pushing itself up against China, Korea, and Russia, and kind of controlling those areas. But it seems to the people there that when you're building bases and you're preparing for war, and they've been caught in between wars in the past. Those wars, one of the stories, one of the histories that really moved me was in Jeju Island was the story of April 3rd massacre that occurred, I think it was in 1957, 58, and just after the Korean War. And they had the South Korean government that was just starting to compose, is still under U.S. military rule at the time, sent in South Korean soldiers to basically wipe out what they thought was the opposition to the separation of the North and the South. The people wanted the country to remain whole. And what happened then was that what we would probably consider sort of a fascist government of the South Koreans went in, and they thought of the people of Jeju Island as communists, and therefore 30 to 60,000 people were wiped out. Truly a massacre. But the people of Jeju Island have built what they call a peace museum. It's called the April 3rd Museum. The most horrible thing is that still the Korean government tries to deny that this was that these were people that were, resisting their government, and they try to keep it silent. Although they've apologized for that massacre, the Peace Museum, which is a huge, beautiful place to see, records all of this, has these wonderful grounds which records the names of all the people that had died in that war that they know of. And but on the tourist map, doesn't exist. Advertising doesn't exist. So the only way you know about it is by us telling about it. So if you're going to Jeju Island, that is one thing for you to do, is to look up that museum. They've also declared their island an island of peace. So the naval base is an intrusion upon the very concept of peace. And the people have been demonstrating for 8 years daily in front of the gates there of this naval base, this Korean naval base. The Korean naval base actually was finished this February, and so the people are still resisting. The Korean government and Korean Navy have just filed a lawsuit against the people of Ganjan village. This is insane, and Veterans for Peace has written a letter that'll be going out to the president of South Korea, and to I have written a letter to an open letter which we'll put out, publish on Veterans for Peace, to let people know that we need to oppose this. People have a right to protest, and if those rights are taken away from us, then all of our rights are taken away from us. And this is insane. Then now we went from Jeju Island, which I was so moved by that experience, to Okinawa. And in Okinawa, people have been demonstrating almost nearly as long. This Marine Corps base is being built in Hanoko area, which is on the bay, Aurora Bay, which is a pristine, beautiful ecosystem that is being damaged by the construction that's started there. But the people have been able to stop construction by sitting in front of the gates of Camp Schwab, a Marine Corps base. And this Marine Corps, the new base that they're building is actually an air base. There's right now some 30 bases in Okinawa, so do they need one more? You know. So these are the things that are happening there. The governor of Okinawa actually rescinded the construction permit from the companies that are building the base. They seem to be ignoring it. And then the Abe government of Japan sued the governor of Okinawa. When I left in December 17th, just last year, the governor of Okinawa countersued the government of Japan. And right now there is a halt on the base. While Abe is, the prime minister is running for running again for office, and but the people are not secure in the idea that this is going to stop it. They just feel that he's going to get all his ducks in a row, hopefully get reelected, and continue this process of building this base. The real danger here is that as these bases are being built, they are being built for war. And the people want to make these islands of peace. They also have a museum called the Cornerstone of Peace. And that museum tells the history of the Battle of Okinawa. And the Battle of Okinawa was the last stand of the Japanese during World War II, and the Okinawans were caught in the middle. And it was an incredible story as I met victims, or survivors, I should say, from that period of time. And when I met those survivors, they told their stories. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I just wanted to say, here I was dealing with islands, and I come back to Portland, and I'm working with another project called the Golden Rule, which is a ship that had sailed to the Marshall Islands in 1958, and it was to try and obstruct the testing of nuclear weapons in the Marshall Islands. The crew was arrested in Hawaii, and they weren't able to go any further, but another ship of Quakers did make it into the islands and disrupted those processes. And later the Golden Rule was an inspiration to Greenpeace, who is still working on a number of wonderful projects out there for our ecosystem. Again, this is a perfect time to have you on the program. The Golden Rule sunk off the coast of California in Humboldt Bay. We have a chapter down there that found it, pulled it out of the water, restored it, sailed it down to our first convention in San Diego last year, and for its first time for sailing. And they're coming up to Portland. And as they're coming up to Portland, they're going to come here for Fleet Week. They'll sail into Portland on June 7th. And then June 8th is when the facility when they will start going actually up and down the river, and there'll be some events that happens at the First Unitarian Church, I believe, in the evening. There are a number of events planned, so we're still in the process of getting that all done. And while looking for people that were interested in this, we ran across Kianna and her husband Jesper, who are Marshall Islanders. You are a Marshall Islander. And you want to tell us a little bit about your history. So,
sure. I'm Kianna Angelo, and I am an adopted Marshallese. I have been raised here in Vancouver, Washington for, I would say, well, I've been here for 40-something years. I won't tell you my age. I was raised in Vancouver in a little tiny area called Hazeldale. Mm-hmm. And Hazeldale has really grown. Wow, it's grown. Growing up, I didn't know really where I was from. I mean, my parents told me that I was adopted and was born in Marshall Islands. And I really didn't get to know too much about the culture or the people until I was an adult. And discovering about my people, my journey kind of started shifting to what I really needed to do and maybe what I'm here for. Because I've always questioned, it's like, what am I here for? What am I here for? So I think...
Don't we all?
Yeah. After I left my family's home, I did more research, and then I found out my biological family was looking for me, and I was kind of curious and a little excited, so I decided to take that action and move forward with it. I was a little hesitant because I know I questioned if it would hurt my parents' feelings. Mm-hmm. And so I asked my adopted brother and sister if it's okay if I move forward. Is it okay that, I mean, you'll be my sister, you'll be my brother no matter what. But if I take the step, I'm going to find myself in a larger community, I'm sure. And they were very supportive. But finding out about the Marshallese people, and then finding that my own family was struggling here with health disparities and environmental displacement, I knew I had to do something. Mm-hmm. And that's when I talked to my husband about starting a nonprofit for the people and basically bring cultural awareness.
And who's that guy, your husband?
Yeah. This is my husband, Jesper, Angelo, and he is Danish. He's from Denmark. He thinks he's an islander, which he...
born on an island.
Is that a continent?
Oh, no, it's an island in Denmark, and it's a very cold and rainy island, but still an island.
Yeah. But he's been supportive through the whole
How did you two
process.
meet?
Oh, are you sure you want to say that?
Sure, why?
Okay. We were playing an online video game called, the first one, called EverQuest, and I'm sure a lot of nerds and geeks will love this. We were going through a change in our life, and I was playing EverQuest. He was playing EverQuest in Denmark. I was playing in Washington State. And here I'm some druid going out to fight the orcs, and he was a warrior fighting the orcs, and we found out we were in the same guild, and so we just started talking back and forth besides armor and weapons of how we were going to take down these orcs, and then we started talking about 80s bands and events, and
And then we got married.
so
How long
yeah, in the game.
How long you been married?
Since 2003.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we were dating 3 years before that. So it was actually a long distance relationship. I was in Washington State, he was in Copenhagen, and we dated. It was perfect because I really needed that time with my 2 older kids to bond with them and to really have a healing relationship from my past and things. And he was coming into the picture, and I said, "Perfect. I need that space." It's good, but yeah.
Spent a lot of time together. There's 7 weeks of vacation every year in
Now,
Denmark.
see, when I'm reading your name, I see Jesper, but you don't pronounce it with the
It's like
Jesper.
like yes with a Y.
Jesper.
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 Yeah.
Okay, and you're a technical engineer.
Yeah, I'm
director?
an engineering cryptologist, but I do all well, to stay with Living Islands, what I usually say is that they have a concept in the Marshallese Outrigger called the bailer, which is basically the guy who does everything else. And that's what I'm doing for Living Islands, everything else.
Well, when I first met you guys, we went over to the place to take a look at the outrigger, and you might tell them what an outrigger is. And you were actually, Kianna was so busy, which she is, that you were actually the person that was kind of telling everybody what it was about, and you were doing a terrific job. So you might go ahead and explain a little bit about it.
Well, the Marshallese Outrigger it's an outrigger canoe, and that means that you have the canoe itself, and then you have this bridge going out, and you have a smaller floating thing on the side. That's the outrigger. So that's an outrigger canoe. The Marshallese is unique in several ways, in the sense that it has a sail, but a lot of Pacific Ocean outrigger canoes has Pacific sails, but it's built in a kind of unique way, and it's a very unique construction in the sense that the design is, as far as we know, at least 500 years old, and it's probably still one of the fastest, single or dual operated watercraft. Wind-operated watercraft ever designed. Incredibly fast, and it has a number of unique features. Despite its age, the outrigger itself and the bridge is tied
You can show
together.
a couple of pictures here if my colleagues can get that up. But go ahead and keep
so
talking.
the bridge going out is actually not fixed permanently to the outrigger. It's tied up, and it allows it to move a little bit in both directions, functioning as a shock absorbent system, which is really good when you're on open seas. And secondly, the hull is shaped like a bird wing, which means it's asymmetric, and also means that the outrigger at the higher speed is not meant to be playing with the water. It's meant to be in a 30-degree angle. And when it does that, it literally almost aquaplanes on the outside of the hull of the main canoe, and making it, as I said, incredibly fast. So everybody who's watching this and have a computer nearby, you should look up Marshallese Outrigger Canoe Race and see the canoe races they have in the Marshall Islands every year. And when you look at the video, you'll be astonished at how fast these boats actually move across the water. It's really unique.
Here it is right here. You can kind of tell them a little bit about that. There's where you said you used, 3 logs for this?
Yeah, we were lucky enough to get donated 3 redwood logs up from Woodland, Washington. And so this is the first ever, I'm pretty sure, Marshallese outrigger canoe in redwood, making it really, really beautiful. So that's our sun, you see there, on the outrigger itself. So that's a counterweight to the wind. And what I'm pointing at right there is actually where it's tied together, functioning as this shock absorbent system, which is a very unique design. Just rated a very unique canoe. And this one is 22 foot long and can hold, at least, it's meant to be sailed by 2 people, but I think we can safely say that you can probably have 4 or 5 people on there or sailing it. Or the way it usually is, what you see in the middle is kind of a storage area. So if you're sailing from island to island, this is where you would put your bananas or coconuts or whatever you would be trading, fish.
Yeah.
You would put it there and tie it down, and then you could, go the few hundred miles across the ocean to the next island.
Let's go to another picture here and see what we've got. I only have a few. Oh, this was the paddle that came out, and I love that etched in there.
Yeah, I did that by hand.
Yeah.
No. So that's our logo, and The paddle is the master builder we have helping us. He built this paddle at World Beat Festival last year, and we actually had to slow him down because it was supposed to be a slow process over the 2 days we were there so people could see it. And he almost did it in like an hour and a half flat until we got him
Now
stopped.
this here is 2 logs?
Yeah, this is 2 logs. It's actually split halfway down. So, and actually here you can see the asymmetry in the hull, which is very unique. And this is out of 2 different redwood logs that is then glued together. Traditionally, they would have this combination of pandana trees and breadfruit trees. The sap from there functions sort of like an epoxy-like glue. So they would put that in to seal it and then tie it together. Today we use epoxy because we don't want to hurt too many trees doing this.
Okay, go to the next picture. If we have, this is the Golden Rule. So the Golden Rule is a ship that, like I said, is going to be coming in here. And one of the things that's going to happen is that you guys are going to sail with us when they start sailing up and down the river. What an amazing thing to bring these 2 boats together, you know. You can take the pictures off. I just wanted to put that up there. So the project, how many people are working on the boat itself? I know that you brought together people from PSU, etc.
Well, we have a master outrigger builder from the Marshall Islands, and he lives in Spokane, Washington. So there's been many challenges to this construction, trying to get the Marshallese up from Salem, which a lot of our people live in Salem, Oregon, and a master builder who lives up in Spokane. So some days would vary. There would be at least two people a day, and I think one of our, I think we had like 10 together in total. So it varies from day to day, but there would always be an interpreter because T.M. Clement, he understands English, but he really speaks English. He speaks Marshallese. So I think anywhere from 2 to 10 for working on the boat. And we did have people from Portland State University interact with the building and support as well.
It was part of why we were lucky enough that Portland State wanted to do this with us. And the first part of the boat, actually the majority of the boat, was built at Portland State on an open field there. So we had a lot of interaction with people just walking by and asking, and it's made a huge difference. Over the last year, we actually noticed a change from people going, you know, what is the Marshall Islands? And, oh, really, there's something in the Pacific Ocean? To, so this is the Marshallese canoe, right? And that's a very significant change. People now know that there is Marshall Islands people, which was why we started the project.
We really like the fact that we plopped down at Oak Savannah in Portland State University. I don't know if you know where that's. It was by the plastic greenhouse. There was the greenhouses there. So there was this green space. And so what we did was we had this huge truck come in, plop down 3 large redwood sequoias that anywhere from 5 to 6 feet in round, and it was like 30 feet long, right next to each other, and people would just walk, and we left them there for a couple weeks to create that conversation piece of what's going on, what is this art, what are they making, and what's happening. And we didn't have any signs up, we just wanted people to talk. And I know a lot of nonprofits awareness can be so difficult and challenging. So I'm like, well, what better way? Portland's all about art and all about hands-on. Why not make Portland and let all my friends and family know what a real outrigger looks like, and come and feel it and talk to my people, where my people can talk to Portland and beyond and say, hey, look, this is what we do. We're proud of this, and this is really cool. So
and it was really nice actually to see a lot of grown-up, get that light in the eyes like kids when you say, come on in, touch it, and then go like, I can touch it. And it's like, yes, you can touch it. Go ahead, which was really rewarding.
So then tell us a little bit about how the project got started then. You started with...
So today's our birthday. We're 3 years old. Living Islands is now 3 years old.
Today.
The first.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. The first year was basically about foundation building, creating relationship, and communicating with my people back home. We took a team to Marshall Islands, and we had to tell our people what we were doing in the States and what we will be doing in the future. So that means we worked with government officials, and we had to work with church leaders and people back home, nonprofits as well. And so we're thinking about our project here. What can we do here? Because most of our work, because it will be back home, we're bringing environmental initiatives and remote education back home. What can we do here to, what kind of project would spark people's interest? We had to make sure we got the word out to our communities locally, and that was important because we're based here locally. And I don't know. I'm like, well, this is Portland. Let's just do this project. Let's just do this hands-on project.
It's a very Portlandia thing, right? Having the idea, I want to build a redwood outrigger canoe, the Marshallese style, and I want to do it downtown Portland, right? I mean, it's...
Well, we have the river.
And we are outdoorsy people.
Yeah.
Oregon is we have, the mountain 2 hours away. The beach is 2 hours away. We are lucky. National forests surrounding us, waters surrounding us. So I think what better way to connect our locals than bringing a small island group, artistic, awesome thing to the outdoors, kind of connect them.
Yeah. When I first saw it, the thing I thought of was a catamaran, because it felt like that same kind of thing. And I know a friend of mine had one for a while, and I went out sailing with him. And we're way out there. Well, it's halfway up out of the water. When you were talking about it, I'm thinking about how those things move so darn fast. And so these were designed for actually ocean travel, right? To go from island to island?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the size. They were designed, the smaller one, like the size we have, 22 feet, are typically for fishing, but it's still, oceanside fishing. It's in Pacific waters, right? Yeah. And if you get bigger, I mean, they would design them from 30 and think up to 50 or 55 feet is the largest they recorded. And they were meant to carry, 20, 30 people, 300 miles from one island to another. I mean, it's...
The king and the community, yes.
So it's a huge undertaking, and there would be a community undertaking, right? Everybody in the community would come together and build both the small and the big outriggers. And they all, I mean, the outrigger itself symbolizes, it's kind of a cornerstone in the Marshallese society, and it was their livelihood. And I talked to one elder Marshallese at one point that said, you got to understand that for Marshallese people, the outrigger is your home. If they build a structure on land, it's temporary. You might have a typhoon, tear it down, and so on. You don't care about that. You care about your outrigger because it's your trade, it's your food, it's everything. And because of because it has this central position in their society, everything in the outrigger is named after different family functions. So the mast, for instance, there's two masts on it, and the main mast that stands up is the male. It's the father or the man of the family because it's strong and it drives the whole outrigger. Now the other boom down here, that's the female because that's the one that controls the sail. Without it, the big strong male would just kind of go flailing in the wind, right? So it's stuff like that. And the bottom of the main canoe is, I forgot the name. Yeah, juch means kindness because that's what.
How'd you say that again?
Juch.
Juice?
Juch, and I'm still learning. And all my people make fun of me, but it's juch.
So that means kindness, and the idea is that in your family structure, in your social structure, it's really kindness that keeps us all together more than anything else. So it's really been interesting for us to learn these different concepts and knowing that everything in the outrigger actually means something. So it's a very unique project.
Well, it sounds like a very neat project. So you are going to, I heard you say something about the sail. It's going to come from the Marshall Islands, is that right?
We have, so we're wanting two sails. Right now there is a pandanus leaf sail being woven in the Marshall Islands for us.
Can you explain what that is?
So that's out of a pandanus tree.
Pandanus tree?
Yeah, it's a leaf. So they strip the leaves off. it's a long process. They strip the leaves off, they soak it in the lagoon, they dry it out in the sun, and then there's so much, it's high humidity.
Like weaving in a basket?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So they weave it very tightly, and it becomes a perfect sail. We have 2 sails, so we need a modern sail as well. The bandana sleeve sail is strictly going to be for show or for the museums. I don't want to ruin it.
I think it is the first time in a lifetime, more than 50 years, that a full-size sail has been made this way.
In how long?
In more than 50 years.
More than 50
They
years.
do it for the model still, but nobody's actually made a full sail in their lifetime.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
This is a major
Yeah,
project.
it is.
It's beautiful.
So anyway,
How
So-
did this get started to get them to do this sail? Was there
Well, that's
ideas coming from the Marshall Islands itself?
well. The whole project was I wanted to keep it a traditional outrigger.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't want to do a modern outrigger. That way we would have to paint it and put, sometimes they use tarps back home. They cut out the tarps and they sew it. But I really wanted to focus on the traditional aspect of this project. We're going to keep the wood at a natural state, but we're going to put a high finish on there in oils. We're still learning ourselves about marine grade, what you put on your boat to make it. So basically it's like a wooden boat, but there will be gloss on there to kind of bring out the wood. As far as the modern sail goes, we are still looking for sails that will be able to supply us a very custom-like sail. And if you look at, like Jesper said, check out the outriggers if you have a computer, research Marshallese traditional outriggers. But the sail's like a triangle. And it's, to me, when I research, it's almost like a sunfish design. So we need something like that. And if anybody can make us the sail within the next month, we'll be happy. So we're going to be like, we're going to be looking here in Portland for anybody who can sew something that quickly and that diligently with a good heart.
Well, we need a real sail. The idea is that
Yeah.
we want a modern sail to sail it, that can withstand, not that it's going to be the gale wind forces in the Willamette River, but it would be nice with.
And we have to have 2 different masts too. We have the redwood sequoia mast, but we all know that redwood sequoia is very soft wood.
It's not going to withstand sailing.
I don't think. So we are getting another mast that is much stronger, that will hold the wind. And
So again,
be able
if
to
somebody
navigate.
happens to have some really solid wood in 25 feet length laying around and
let us
have
know.
nothing else to do with it, then by all means.
And you've been getting all this stuff donated too, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Everything that our team is, using to carve out the wood to make this whole thing possible has actually been donations. For example, like Lowe's and our lots of friends and family. Bamboo Grove has really helped out as well.
Yeah.
It's important for our people to eat. Seriously, if our master builder is fed and happy, and if there's food and he knows that there's food, he'll be able to work on the boat. And that's very tradition back home. If the master builder does not have food, he will not work for that day. And there was a great explanation how it's important, but it's just like with anything, I think. So we had to, working with our local restaurants and stores, we wouldn't be here today without everybody who really understood the project and was very supportive. So we thank them for
In
that.
time, we had a lot of volunteers. We run on a very, very lean budget.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of volunteers. They have put in an immense amount of hours, and nobody's been paid.
Yeah.
Not a single dime. And that's amazing that we've gotten to that. It's
And
a big applause to the people who's working this, because it's time away from their family, and it's just been amazing.
Yeah. And most of them have 8-hour jobs.
Yes.
So they're coming here on their own time. They're coming in here away from their family. But then again, that's with any volunteers for any organization. So I want to say thank you to my volunteers.
Of course. So now you're going to have a celebration of sort of unveiling this, and when is that
Yes.
going to be and where?
That will be at Portland State University at the Native American Student Community Center. And that will be Thursday, May 26th, and from 6 to 9. The unveiling will happen, and we have a few indigenous nations here in the community that will be blessing the Outrigger, along with a few Pacific Island nations. And then we will be doing our traditional ceremony blessing as well. So there'll be a lot of indigenous communities coming together to really be aware of this project and to let people know.
Which is really nice. We when we started this project, we talked about, is there a way to bridge, this boat building tradition between
Right.
the Native Americans or the Native indigenous groups and the traditional European way of building boats, and then the Marshallese, because we all share the Pacific Ocean, right? And so we've been that was kind of one of the things we wanted to do from the get-go, and we had huge support not just from PSU, but from the Native American Student Community Center as well. And as Kianna said, it's going to be blessed. I mean, for us it's a huge step that in terms of being equal, we've gone from being an unknown, the Marshallese being a virtually unknown group, to now having the local Native American tribe saying, before you put an outrigger in our waters, we have to accept you because that's our way.
That's a beautiful way to do it.
And
yes.
that is really, really beautiful, and it takes place in the NAS Center. The wood is actually, originally when we took it down, was blessed by the Cowlitz tribe up in Woodland before we fell it up there, and it's been...
We wanted to be very sensitive on this whole build process. So having our Indian nations, our tribes locally support us in that way was very heartfelt.
Well, yes, it would be. And we try also when we're doing something with Veterans for Peace to do a Native American ceremony, because this is their land, and we have to learn to respect that. If we want peace in the world, we have to respect each other. And since our nation and as soldiers, we have trampled on too many people in this world, and we need to make amends for those things and to try to create a world of peace, So it's very important. I think that that is something that's grand, that you took those steps in finding out about that, learning your history. So what other things is the organization doing? You're more than just one organization. I've seen you at a number of different organizations. You are a busy person.
I am. And so, you're not the only one. My kids say that too.
We see her from time to time for Christmas.
I'm very passionate for the social justice aspect for my people too. There is another organization called COFA Alliance National Network, and that is a nonprofit that brings social justice to the COFA community. And the communities are 3 nations in the Pacific, in the Micronesian Pacific. That is Republic of Marshall Islands, Federated States of Micronesia, which has 4 states, which is Chuuk, Kursai, Yap, Pohnpei, and then there is Palau. And so what happens here in Oregon, we just passed, for CAN, they have passed 2 bills. Our lobbyist Lloyd Henyon and Shane Jackson, and our community organizer David Anatok, and our other board member Joe Enlett and Paulina Perman. We've had a lot of people help and sponsor these past 2 bills. That's helped out in Oregon, and Jesper as well. Sorry, he's
okay.
also the secretary of our other organization.
I said I'm the bailer.
And technology, yeah. So you could talk about a little bit about the bills.
Yeah, the bills is actually a really big step during the healthcare reform in '96. The COFA nations that they're known, in general, which is these nations, they used to be eligible for Medicare and Social Security and stuff like that, and they got forgotten. It's the best way of expressing it. They never got written into the healthcare reform. So overnight in '96, they lost all their benefits. And this is a group of people who are still required to pay Social Security taxes. They don't qualify for Medicaid. They're overrepresented. There are more per capita, there are more Micronesians in the U.S. military than any other population group. So, and they share military.
Oh,
Very
wow.
interesting.
Yeah, and so they defend the country, they pay their taxes, and if they're under 138% poverty level, they just don't get Medicaid, sorry, because we forgot to write it into the law. And it's been like that since '96.
They don't get their veterans benefits either?
They get their veterans benefit, but at the same time, their families
Their
who's not
families.
covered by veterans benefit might not get the
right,
Medicaid.
Right.
Right, and that's a real shame in so many ways. So what we decided to do in CAN, Cove Alliance National Network, is figuring out, is there a way to make Oregon State, because Oregon State kind of take care of their own, is there a way for them to backfill what the federal won't pay for? And we looked back and forth, and finally we figured out there is a way, there is a program where a state can create healthcare programs for people, you know, that are more exposed than other, and
Fall through the cracks.
that falls through the cracks. And when they do, then the federal government have to pay, you know, 9 parts, and the state pay 1 part. And that meant that we could kept it at a level where most people in the legislation thought that this is definitely something that we should do as a state. I mean, most people agree that this is something we should do, but there's always a dollar amount attached to it. But this allowed us to keep the cost really, really low for Oregon State. And so the first bill was in the fall, dictating that the Oregon Health Authority should make a survey figuring out exactly what we're talking about in numbers and dollar amounts. And based on that, writing on that bill, we introduced HB 4071, which got passed in this legislation that says, yes, Oregon State is creating a program. So from January 1st, 2017, if you're a COFA citizen, you are now back on a Medicaid equivalent plan, you know, from Oregon State, paid over the state, but giving you the same benefits that you would have in the lost Medicaid. So that's a huge step.
That is a huge step. That's amazing. Good work.
Thank you.
That's good work. Healthcare is another major issue for me. You know, as a veteran, you know, I have the great opportunity, at least having veterans benefits, but it's based on the fact that I'm also was a combat veteran, and that I was exposed to Agent Orange, and had a child that was born with a number of birth defects, and died when he was 3 years old.
Oh.
So those kinds of things, and there are hundreds of veterans, thousands of veterans that have been affected by these things. And even when I went back to Okinawa, we found, while I was there, there was I went to a radio program to actually do an interview about Agent Orange and to talk about that. And then the people there says, well, right below us here in Katima Base, there is, or Katema Base, I never know how I'm pronouncing things, they found Agent Orange, dioxin, that was tested for dioxin. And I says, your studio is right above this? You know, are you crazy? You know, and I don't want to get re-exposed.
Yeah.
But I stayed there, and then they told us, well, there's a down city not too far from us, Okinawa City. They have a soccer field where all these barrels of Agent Orange and other chemicals are being stacked up. So we wanted to go see it. I was with Colonel Ann Wright, who was there to talk about military sexual trauma, and she's been all over the world on many, many cases, issues. But she and I both were very interested in what was going on, so we went there to the city, Okinawa City, and in this soccer field, they just kept piling up these barrels, but they covered them with a tarp. It seemed like they were packing them in with dirt, but they were a big hole that they had dug them out, or were going to bury them in. Who knows? I don't know the process here that they're planning. The people that were working in it didn't have hazmat uniforms on. There's a primary school just right across from it, and then just down the road a ways there was a high school. And then the people that live, it's right in the center of the city. So people are being either, if anything goes wrong, the exposure, dioxin is one of the most dangerous poisons that's ever been created. So this is very serious. And when I asked them, well, who's cleaning it up, they said, well, the Japanese government said it was a U.S. military base. It's their responsibility. The U.S. military said, well, we gave the base back to Japan. It's their responsibility. And the people were caught in the middle, So that's one of my goals here is to see that somehow this gets cleaned up, And there's a reporter, John Mitchell, who John Mitchell, who a reporter out of Japan who actually exposed this to 2 or 3 years ago, and he and I are in communication, and he's been writing a number of stories to try and bring this awareness to the world. So it's one of those things, like it's just constantly trying to make people aware of either the culture of the people, what they want to. Healthcare is a very important thing. For me, it's healthcare is important. But even in today's society, there's still too many people falling through the cracks, and that you found one way to help people that are falling through the cracks, I think, is commendable. We just had I wasn't here at the time because I was back in St. Louis for a board meeting, Veterans for Peace, but they had Inner City Blues Festival. I don't know if you heard about that. Inner City Blues Festival was for a national health care plan. They want to take the Obama plan and turn it into a full single-payer health care for everyone, which is what we really need in this country. Danish, and they have universal health care, right?
Yes, we do.
Isn't it horrible? You have to wait forever for things?
I think it's interesting. I've been trying, both in Denmark and after we moved over here, to calculate my effective taxes. I'm trying to figure out what you pay in VAT and, all kinds of different things. And I ended up realizing that in Denmark we have free healthcare and free schooling, free university, and my effective tax to the government is less than what I'm paying over here. And then there's a whole issue with, you already have so many so-called socialized function. I mean, you have your police, you have your road system, you have all these different things. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You're just going to have to figure out
where the priorities
where
are,
the priorities. Right? That being said, it's not that the Danish healthcare system is without problems. There's plenty of issues with that too. It's not like there's one right way to do it.
Yeah. So again, let's get back to the Marshall Islands and your projects. Now you're working with, when I came to visit, you had all these adopted children that came.
And that was amazing, actually. There was a lady who found out that I was adopted, and she was from Everett, I think Everett. She wrote me and said she would like to take her son to see this, and she may have a few people coming. She's like, I know that this might be too much, but I really would like to meet you. I would really like my son to meet you and to also see what you're doing. So I said, yeah, okay. I'll pull it in my schedule. I'll take Saturday and go back to the boat build, even though the master builder wasn't there. We decided to go down there, and right last minute I was also reminded that I had something else in my schedule, hence I was late that day. There were what, 10 families there, maybe more. But there is a group here on the West Coast that have adopted Marshallese children, and the parents communicate with the kids about their identity, and that's something I really wish I had growing up. So I commended the parents, and I talked to the kids and said, you have so much opportunity here in the States, you've got to really use it. Do as much as you can. Get involved in your communities. Be big inspiration to the world. Do something amazing. So it was I just felt that was something I liked. That was good to me, because I felt like for once, I don't know how to explain it. It just felt good. It felt good to know that there there were a group of people who
Well, the children
focuses-
seemed to love it. They were climbing all over the outrigger and wanted to know more. It just seems like that's a great way to introduce the culture, as you were saying, making people aware and making those connections.
You know what I really liked was you're right, that craving part, they really seemed to want to know more about where they came from. And
Right.
I think having them touch the boats and involved in that was good.
Well, we're getting down to the last 3 minutes here. So now you're also going to be taking the outrigger
Yes.
to Seattle for the museum. Is that?
We're hoping. We're working with
It's
the
still in the
University of
works.
Washington and the Burke Museum. That's in the works.
Mm-hmm.
But we will be putting this in the water Saturday, June 11th, and meeting the Golden Rule
Golden
on the
Rule.
river. Yeah, on the Willamette.
That's going to be an amazing thing. And how has the press been? Is it being interested? Are you guys getting lots of press on this?
I think it's increasing. I mean, when we started out, there wasn't a boat yet, right? So it makes it harder. But
Right.
now that there's a boat, it's definely incing, exponentially.
Well, as we're both sailing down the river, we should be getting
Yeah.
lots of and those Navy ships and Coast Guard ships should be well interested in what is this all about. That should be education to both them and to the people here in Portland to know more about what's going on. Is there any way they should contact you and find out
Yeah,
about it?
livingislands.org or info@livingislands.org.
So email or a Facebook page, which is
Yeah.
facebook.com/livingislands.
Well, I want to thank you very much for being here again, Kianna. Thank
Thank you
for
so
being here.
much.
It's
I
been a pleasure.
appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you.
It was great being here.
pleasure having you here, and great spokesman for the technical end.
Yes.
And I want to thank all of our people here. Remember, this is Earth Day. Try to do your part, and we'll be back here again next fourth Saturday of the month, and we'll be hopefully talking about the launching of the outrigger. Thank you again.